to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, Victoria Sanchez joins me on the show, and this is a very thought-provoking conversation. At least it was for me. Victoria's career spans more than 3 decades, where she has spent the majority of her career in Alexandria, Virginia, providing design services to Fortune 500 executives, lobbyists, military generals, doctors, lawyers, investment specialists, and other professionals throughout the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. While there, she also ran her Victoria at Home shop, the area's leading source of elegant home furnishings and accessories. Now Victoria is based in Santa Fe, New Mexico. New life, new style. But Victoria still has projects both in Santa Fe as well as the East Coast and nationwide. At one time, Victoria also served as an interior design professor at Marymount University. And this is where our conversation begins today. Victoria has some pretty serious ideas on how she believes we should be educating the future interior designers. And she also believes if we don't start making changes to the design curriculum as an industry, we're at risk. So I'll tell you, I have never heard anyone propose this idea before, and I've also learned in my many years in business, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And to understand what I truly mean by this, hang on for my observations after our conversation. Before we get to all of this, though, let's say high five to Article for the fantastic To the Trade division that they run. Of course, by now, you know Article is your resource for mid-century Scandinavian-inspired furniture. But did you realize their To the Trade division is run by interior design professionals? Right? So do you know what that means? That means that even though the rest of the world doesn't really know that there's a such thing as a design emergency, Article does. That's right. Having been in your shoes, they get the crazy pants things that can happen, and they are intent in helping you help your client. Go to welldesigned.article.com today to open your trade account and place your orders. That's welldesigned.article.com. Alrighty, I'm excited to introduce you to Victoria Sanchez. Hi, Victoria. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Oh, good morning, LuAnn. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited.
I am too, Victoria. You said something very intriguing to me as we were getting to know each other, and I was like, oh, we are going to have a nice conversation today. So, Victoria, you have many years' experience in the interior design industry. I've just gone through your bio in the introduction. The intriguing thing that you said to me was, I'm really concerned about the state of our interior design industry, and I'm worried about the way it's going. And you know what, Victoria, I got to say, I hear that every day of the week. Somebody says, what's going to happen? The internet this and la, la, la. But very rarely does somebody say to me, and I have an idea to solve it. And I thought, uh-oh, we're on to something. So give us a little bit of where you're coming from, what you're thinking, and then we're going to pull it apart, Victoria.
Okay, so I'm going to try and be kind of succinct in this soapbox pitch that I have. But I I'm very concerned about the future of interior design. And yes, the internet is part of it, and all the design centers being open to the retail now. Sure, those are elements. But to me, the crux of the matter is that we are not producing business-minded interior designers when they graduate from their programs. And if you look at the top 10 schools in the country, all of their programs are the same because, of course, they have to be certified, and those requirements are there. But what happens is we are trying to fill, and I've been a college professor, and with my master's I learned even more about this, but we are trying to pack way too much information into the 4-year program. We are teaching them residential design. We are teaching them commercial design. We are teaching them sustainability. We're teaching them technical presentation skills. I mean, it's just so much going into a 4-year plus your gen ed courses. So my feeling is that what we really need to do is to take the programs that we have, kind of pull them apart, and offer 3 different interior design programs: residential, commercial, and then the technical presentation aspect of it. And a student can start at the beginning and decide, well, gee, I thought I wanted residential, but after that class I sure don't, and that's fine. But it allows us to offer more courses, such as business law, such as accounting, such as marketing, which is such an important element of what we do, as well as the professional practice course, which everybody teaches. But again, that 3 credit 1 semester professional practices just has too much information in it, and the students aren't grasping that this isn't just decorating and high heels. It is a business that we're running, and I think that that's what's missing today. And if we can add that in, you can be a designer with a business brain, then we are actually moving forward in our profession. And that's my soapbox pitch.
I'm going to tell you what, I just think it's brilliant. I truly do. I mean, I've mentioned it a few times on the podcast. I will never forget when Dr. Ellen Fisher was on the show, and she was on in the first couple of months. And of course, hindsight, I'm at the moment, this is me looking back at the moment, I was very fired up. It was the beginning of the podcast. I was on a mission. I want to help designers run a well-designed business. I want them, to be able to really create a career out of this skill and talent they had. And in my business life with Window Works for the previous 30 plus years, I saw that was not happening. And so, when I get Dr. Ellen Fisher on, the dean of the New York School of Interior Design, of course I'm going to be respectful, but I ask the question like, why don't you teach them business, thinking I've got her in the crosshairs here. Right? And I will never forget. She says to me, well, LuAnn, we have to teach them commercial design. We have to teach them residential. We have to teach them sustainability, all the things that you said. And she said, and in 4 years, there's just not enough time. And our mission is to teach them design. And so then I'm like, right. But what about that other part? And she said, well, for us at New York School of Interior Design, we encourage actively, not just passively, but we actively say, you're going to need to get the business skills. You need to do internships. You need to work for other firms. And when you come out, we suggest that they work for another firm. And so at that moment, I was like, all right, I guess she's right. But what I love is that you have the solution to the dilemma. It's so true. Here's your line. I love it. I wrote it down. I have to say it again. We are not producing business-minded interior designers out of the schools. And that is just so clutch.
It is. And so, going back to how we, started off the conversation, that to me is why we are losing our interior design profession.
Right.
And I think that when these technology is fabulous. We all love it. But, I remember teaching a professional practices course in one of the colleges back east, and I didn't understand this, but their library was not the library that I expected to see. What I walked into was, Victoria, these libraries, they're just such a mess. We have fabrics here and the kids don't clean up and blah, blah, blah. So when they're doing their job book, as we do in the professional practices, a contract and a job book, et cetera, she said, you could have the students work off of the internet, and they can specify furniture, whatever. It can be Pottery Barn, it can be, and then they can also simply cut and paste the fabrics that they like. And so it's really a digital job book. And I thought, okay, that makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. These girls or kids have no idea. Like, it's a pretty little white fabric, but honey bunny, that is a sheer. Read the description. That's not happening on your sofa. And so those things really bothered me a lot. Same with the textile course, which was a full semester. But the kids didn't understand all these textiles and what they felt like and what they looked like. So I walked in one day with 3 fat bags of Design Center fabrics that I pulled from my library, and passed around chintz, made them touch a glaze, passed around a sheer. How opaque is it? Is this going to really block the sun? It's polyester. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? And interior design is very tactile. And rushing through all these courses and having everything done digitally, I believe that you're missing the basics. And it's, touchy-feely, not to make it sound like it's high heel and lipstick. And I use that as a expression frequently, but it's these elements are not being taught the way they need to, so that the designers coming out understand what it is that they're selling.
Right. And the thing is, to be clear, the industry leaders for as far as the colleges and universities are concerned, like Ellen Fisher and others, it's not because they don't care. It's not because they think this is, not a big deal. It's because they're tasked with actually this model, which you are challenging, but tasked with the traditional model of teaching a student all of these aspects. And I remember her saying to me, this is my job. This is our job, to make sure that they cross paths with all of these things. And so, but what I love is that your solution isn't, hey, they don't need to learn all of these things. Your solution isn't, okay, throw the baby out with the bathwater, but what I love is the solution is very clear. It's, what it reminds me of when you said it to me? It's like medical school. We don't, the universities that teach medical, to prepare someone to be a doctor, they don't say, well, you might be a pediatrician, you might be an oncologist, you might be a dentist, so we're just going to give you a semester of every single thing and push you out into the world. And basically, you won't be an expert at any of those things, but you'll be qualified because we taught you everything. And instead, they give them the medical school-based training, but then when you go to specialize, you take more courses in that area, right? And so what you're saying is break it into the 3 areas. And if somebody, so if somebody chooses residential design, and let's say, like your point, you could say that they could change tracks, but let's just say someone chooses residential design. Your theory, the way it would look, is they enter the university, they choose residential design as their track. If they stay in that for 4 years, what you're saying is they will have all the training they need in residential design. You will add in all of this business training that you feel is important to be well-rounded. And guess what? If they decide when they're 10 years out of school, they want to be a commercial designer, they didn't have that course. They got to go back for that. And that's okay. Because what you're saying is establish what you want so that we can make you really good at either residential design, commercial design, or technical aspects of design, right?
That's exactly
I
it.
Love it.
And CETA, which is the Council for Interior Design Accreditation, as you mentioned, I mean, this is not. I am not saying everybody's wrong and nobody knows what they're doing.
No,
that's not what I'm saying.
No.
But being a college professor and being in that environment, when I got my master's, my poor professors and my advisors exhausted, trying to hurry up and cram in the last elements in the semester, and they were overwhelmed, and many of them agreed with my thought process. But it's trying to just cram too much. So really it's this is going to be hateful, but it is about challenging CETA.
Status quo. Oh, is
So
it? Okay.
it is, because if CETA is the one that is accrediting the programs, you look at all the programs that we have. Again, I'm going to just refer to the top 10. They're all accredited by CETA. So you have to go through that process to be recognized as a accredited program. So these are CETA's standards. And I'm going to just read their mission statement because I jotted it down. The Council for Interior Design Accreditation, CETA, advances the interior design profession as the definitive source for quality standards and accreditation in higher education. So it's the standards that CETA sets for these programs to go through, offer to the kids, have their accreditation be done. So it's talking to them, and how can CETA work? Because everybody has to come up with new curriculum. So we have to have a new curriculum for that residential program, the commercial program, the tech program, and then it has to be approved by CETA. And these processes are time-consuming. You need to have, in some cases, hire new staff. That might, a university may not have if it's a tech degree, do you have enough professors?
Rather than just one that's going to do one semester, do you have enough to make it a curriculum run, like it's a whole thing?
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. So it's a real upheaval of the educational standards that are currently in place and approved by CETA. So I used to say, I'm almost 60 years old and I'm feeling a little tired lately, but I used to say, on my soapbox, before I die, I am going to change this, and all my little friends, not little friends, not in derogatory, but,
No.
All my friends would just stand around with their cocktails and go, yeah.
Good
okay,
luck with that.
Yeah.
Good luck with that,
And
Victoria.
then, chug a lug and walk away from me. But
She's a little crazy.
Yeah, she's a little cray, poor little thing. But I am very passionate about this. And again, being in the educational system for these kids and looking at them and listening to them, and I'm thinking to myself, how am I supposed to teach all this? How am I supposed to, and you skim over stuff, and I didn't feel good about it. Some courses, yes, Studio 1 and 2 are just the cutest thing on the planet. But, these other courses that are so key, especially professional practices, that kind of thing just really bothered me. I knew they walked out with, like deers in the headlights, or headlights in the deers, or whatever that little
yeah. No, I mean, the thing is, it's like, look, you're right in placing it with CETA, because that, you having been a professor, to me, being a teacher at any level, it's like being a nurse. It is, you are called to it. It is a rare thing to do, and to do it well, and to do it with passion. I shouldn't say never. There are bad teachers out there, but for the most part, as a profession, teachers are called to it. Professors are called to it for their love of the industry and the love of conveying that knowledge and passion. So this isn't professors not caring, not wanting to do it. This is a huge machine to be changing.
Yes.
This is huge. This isn't like, hey, why don't we just do it this way? Great idea, Victoria. We'll start next year. So the question is, I feel like we should call CETA. I'm just saying. I think between me and you, we could be pretty persuasive. But the thing is, how would it really happen, Victoria? Like, I feel like, in my mind, and I know you've given it so much thought, but as you're talking, I'm saying, what would it take? And I feel like it would take one college, one university to say, we are committing to doing this. We are committing to, and of course you have to run your regular program while, like you said, you revamp your back end and you take a look at the chess game of who would be the professors, what would be the courses. How about this? If you're a strictly design school, do you even have professors for business law and accounting and things like that, right? But it almost is like you have to do it. You have to build it and then get it approved, which I know probably could take 10 years. But the point is, don't you feel like if someone did it and then you push that first 4-year class out, the word would spread like wildfire at how much better prepared those students would come out?
I think so. And I think that when I was hiring in Northern Virginia, there were key schools that I always, looked at for internships or new hires because I knew what kind of students they churned out. And I was always excited to see some of those resumes come across my desk. But, it's one of those things that I think, yes, it's moving a mountain.
Yeah. I mean, do you really think, think about it. I know you've thought about it. What do you really, I can't even imagine. This is like, we're all going to stop driving cars next week and every single person is going to get a moped. Like, how do you make a movement like this happen, Victoria?
I think that it's imperative for the acknowledgement of professionals, whether they're educators, industry partners, whatever it is. But the industry has to start to open up their eyes and understand where we're going, where we've been, and do we want to go there? In 1913, Elsie DeWolf, familiar name.
Yeah.
She was our forelady, right, in our industry. And when I teach the history of interior design, how much has that business plan changed from 1913? That's 106 years ago. And I think what's really changed is the internet.
You're right.
Okay, that's about it. Because we still, Elsie DeWolf started charging a commission. She also, people started looking at a fee. Cabinet makers in the 18th century, they'd go around and they'd show their drawings, and you'd say, yes, I want 10 dining room chairs and that table, etc. The cabinet maker would make it, and they were sort of the interior designers of that time. So, not a whole lot has changed in terms of how we sell our product, but how we move into the future is what's important. We're still going to work commission based. We're still going to, there's people that do the flat fee, people that do hourly, people that do plus 20, plus 30, whatever, retail minus. And I'm not talking about changing that, although I am a big proponent of flat fee, but it's really about how do we keep our industry from going to consumers with internets? That's really what it is.
And
why do they need us?
Right. And you know what I love about your whole premise of your whole conversation is that it cuts through the noise of the typical conversation for the last year and a half has been the internet is changing the way we're doing business. Consumers can get anything that we can get, practically not anything, but many of the things that we can get. And how am I going to compete with the internet? And the answer has been, run your business well. Be the leader of your business. Be the leader of the project. Set the agreements out. Set out how you will work and how you won't work. And then when a client wants to cross that line, they can stay on the other side of the line. They don't work with your firm. And I like all that. I love that idea of Cheryl Clendenin was on the show, and she is just so smart and so locked down, and she has a specific way that she runs her business. The thing that I like about strong business leaders like this in our industry is Cheryl can run her business one way. Sandra Funk can run her business one way. Anybody can run their business a certain way. It doesn't have to be the same way, but the difference is that they are business people who run their business. And that's what you're saying is, okay, do a flat fee, do an hourly, do a plus, do a minus, do whatever the heck you want. But know what it is you do. And unless you have been trained in business, how do you know what you do?
Exactly.
It just really gets to the root of the problem. It really does.
And yes, the internet and our consumers, sure, some of them go online and go, well, I just saw something like it, and would this fit? And you have to be strong and say, no, it doesn't. Let's go back to what I showed you and let's discuss the merits. You have to have that confidence in managing your client, their expectations, their trip down decorator lane, but you have to have enough business savvy, I think. And if you think about it, a lot of guys and gals, lawyers and marketing majors, business majors. How many of them do we know that are super successful that are now interior designers?
Right.
Toby Fairley is a great example.
Exactly.
Lauren Lees is a marketing major. Yeah. Look at her. Barry Dixon, he's a lawyer. So you have a lot of people that are they're just smart.
Right.
And they're not tiptoeing around the business elements. So it's you gotta get those. You gotta churn out business-minded people in order to keep them running a business and preserve our industry.
It's so absolutely clear what you're saying. I love it. And it's so true. In over 500 interviews with this podcast, I can tell you, hands down, the ones that are running the most successful interior design firms almost always come from some sort of experience, background, and or actual training in running a business, that it's a business first and a design firm second. And what's so interesting is that even if you are past your 4-year degree, even if you've opened without having any training at all, it's not like, well, all right, there's no hope for me. You still can go get business training, right? You actually still can. I remember Ashlina, I'm not going to remember how to say her last name, but I remember she was a young girl. She decided to go into design. She's very, very high profile now. She's very successful. And what she said was when she moved to New York City to study design, she specifically was taking her design classes at whatever school she went to. I don't recall at the top of my head, but she was going to night school at another location taking business classes.
Smart.
Yeah, she is. She's smart. Copasta, something like that. I don't know how to say her last name. But, this is the thing. And that's so this is a way to do, in other words, people like Toby and Barry and Lauren, they come from a previous business career and experience and then go to design. But even if this is your one and only career, and even if you finished design school 3 months ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago, you can go get business education.
Absolutely. And I think another tidbit to toss out is that there's folks that say, I don't want to run my own business. Right. I am more than happy working for somebody else. I really want to be in commercial design. I love hospitality. I love, whatever it may be. And I want to work for somebody else. Okay, that's great. But you still need to understand how your boss's business pays your paycheck.
Right.
It doesn't just happen because you're cute and you show up and you create beautiful interiors. Of course, that's helpful, but you have to understand the billing aspect. And when you're specifying something, is it within the budget? What is the markup? So you don't spend hours doing research and only to present, and your team says, oh golly, well, no, we're not using Brunswick. We can't do a custom scally fabric. No. That's not how we're going to do it. And of course, as Dr. Fisher says, you get the internship, you get the training, you do learn those things. But the bottom line is, even as an employee, you have to understand the principles of business to make money for your firm.
And it only makes you a more valuable employee when you have the big picture. And to your point, so many people have no desire to be self-employed. And thankfully, because there's room for everybody in every place that they want to, fulfill their passion in their career. However, when you do have that knowledge, you are going, like you look for certain designers coming out of certain schools. A principal looks for qualities in a designer when they hire beyond just the aesthetic that they can bring to the table. When they can, as you said, put together a project on time and on budget, then that's valuable. And you don't learn that if you're not paying attention to how to analyze whether this is going to be on budget, or to pay attention to the time that you spend spinning your wheels. If you don't realize that when you're spinning your wheels looking for the absolute single perfect XYZ, how that is burning dollar bills for your principal, that's a problem.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I'm not knocking our design schools. I'm not knocking CETA. I'm not knocking how things have been. what I'm knocking is where we're going in the future. And so I don't want to make enemies with people and think that I'm poo-pooing all these wonderful design schools. But I think just moving forward, things have to get mixed up a little bit and, toss it in a basket and pull it out like spaghetti and kind of start all over again. Because we aren't going to be, I'm kind of glad that I'm at the end of my career because I just don't see in 10 to 15 years where we would be. Commercial's different. A hospital's not going to decorate themselves and they're not going to do the space. That's different. But for the typical consumer, I think that's the segment of our industry that I think is going to be falling apart is the residential portion of it.
Well, and I love that, you're exactly right. You're not knocking any single person or institution for what is. But what you're saying is change is in the air. And what worked before may not, and in your opinion, no, you believe it will not work for the future. So it's not about blame and regret and all of that. It's saying, okay, everybody knows the internet and all of this other stuff is changing our industry. So how are we changing with it? How are we preparing this next layer, this next level of designers for this change? So yeah, you're right. It's not about, blame game. It's about being forward thinking. But I have to say it again. I mean, how do you think come on, Victoria, how are we going to do this? Who are we going to get? Who are we going to call? Because I love this idea.
Here's the plan.
Okay.
I think that first, awareness. I think we need to, and you and I, LuAnn, are kind of, aggressive, and we're girls that can, round up some folks. But I think that awareness is the first logical step, and awareness can be presented at High Point in particular. They have so many fabulous presentations and panels, and such a great audience, national, international audience. Presenting it out there. New York, all these design centers have their design week. Mm-hmm. And I think that these panels have got to get formed and start. And it's got to be a national presentation of this concept. And the reactions are going to be coming in. So it's going to verify the hypothesis. Is this, what does everybody think when they hear this? And the grumblings are going to come in and the praise is going to come in. And I think that that's really going to say, yep, this idea has validity. Step 2. And then it is creating curriculum. My master's is not in education with a focus on curriculum. And sometimes I regret that I got a master's in interior design instead of getting curriculum because that was always in the back of my brain. But I didn't. But, there's a lot of smart folks out there that would love to collaborate. And so writing curriculum and saying, what does this look like? What does that look like? And work with CETA and see if we can get them to work with us on it. And then, it's a long process. It's a long process.
Well, we're doing panels. That's hopeful. It. I'm in. I'm finding us a place, and we're doing it this April.
I'm very hopeful about it. And if it's something that I could actually contribute to and to this industry that's been so good to me. I mean, as a single mom, I started my business. My kids were 3 and 5. My ex-husband left, and I was not about to put him in full-time daycare to go work for somebody. Not that I was beneath working for somebody. That's not at all what I'm saying. But what I felt was I didn't want to have to put my kids in daycare, and that was really important to me to pick them up and be there for them, particularly during that difficult time and for them not having their dad around. And so, I bought a beautiful house on the water in Alexandria. I lived in it for 17 years, and it was in the same neighborhood that my neighbors were in. There was only 3 of us that had houses on the water, but I had this magnificent view, and I went out on a limb to buy it, et cetera, et cetera. And people would be a little surprised when they came to my home. And I would joke and I'd say, I didn't get any settlement from my ex-husband. This is all me. And I bought this house with pillows and sofas. And, and I was proud of it because, yes, this industry has been very good to me. It supported my children. We were able to take some nice vacations. I gave them a lot, right? I guess I spoiled them. But, again, going back to it, this industry has been good to me. I want to leave something behind besides beautiful interiors when my day is done. And I believe so strongly about this. If this is something that I can be a part of and, and feel good about leaving this industry and saying, gosh, I know it's going to go on and on and on, and this is fabulous. It's going to support so many families, and it's going to be preserved. And maybe that sounds kind of lofty or egotistical or like, who the hell are you, Victoria? Come on. But I just believe in it very strongly.
Well, the thing is, it takes someone like yourself for every movement to start. Somebody has to have a deep connection to it on a personal level. And if that for you starts with the looking back on your career and seeing how you were able to stand on your own 2 feet because of your design firm and lift your children up and provide them with a great life, well, what is more emotional of a connection than that type of gratitude, right? So you know what? Yeah. And then to turn around and say, how do I turn around and give back when I'm done? That's how this kind of stuff starts. That's exactly how it starts, right?
I think so. And it just, because I am kind of a wackadoodle, I just don't give myself the credit, I suppose, that, gee, Victoria, you could organize something. You could work with other people like yourself and, others that believe in the mission and actually make change. Change starts with one person, we see bumper stickers and stuff like that, but you never really think it might be you. And, but as I've gotten older, I just believe in it more and more. And so why not me,
Right. Why not you? Like my mom always says, if not you, Lou, who?
Sounds like Dr. Seuss.
I know. That's what's been so fun about it my whole life. If not you, Lou, who? So, but here's the thing, Victoria. Do we have any like-minded people that you know of at this point? So I've never heard this concept before, and I'm in love with it. And now I am jumping on this bandwagon with you. And so who else? Who are we rallying? Who's at the top of this fight that you know of that we can, gather and, get this going?
So some of the folks that I have chatted with about this were at High Point. And also, I've been in D.C. forever, so I have a D.C. posse that would chime in. But Gary Inman's a great friend of mine, super smart fella. He is in Richmond, and Gary does residential as well as hospitality work. And he and I had lunch with a friend of his, Saxon Henry. I don't know if that name sounds familiar to you, but she's a journalist, and she does content for big firms. So when I chatted with them about this at lunch, Saxon was like, you need to write a book about this. And she's like, I am interested in partnering with you because this is interesting. This is important. Gary, who's, again, my age, has seen a lot of designers come and go into their firm, and he feels the same way. When you're hiring these folks and they're coming out of school and they don't know anything.
Right. They know their design part, but they don't know the other part.
Exactly. They come into your office and they're like, so, they've never picked up the phone and called to get a price on fabric. They don't, these are the practical everyday things that we do, and yet they're not taught that. So, that's what we see. Gary agrees with me. Something's got to change. We've got to get these kids out of school with the business brain. I was talking to Timothy Corrigan about it at the Curry showroom, and I told him what I was working on in my brain, and I wanted to formulate it. And I said, I'd like to write this book. I'd like to interview some, top tier designers and get their input on what they feel they are hiring, what they feel these kids need, their input on my angle here. And he said, I'm in.
Nice.
So, there are people who, and I'm going to say it's the older set. I know I hate saying that, but it's true. It's the older set that has been doing this 20, 30, or like me, almost 40 years, that can turn around and say, hi, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we getting? Where are we going?
Well, I would challenge that statement there only from this standpoint, because I'm a Libra. I got to look at all sides of everything. Okay. So the only thing I would challenge in that particular statement is that I don't know for a fact that, look, we know for a fact that the older set is upset and concerned about the future of design, right? And the industry of design. And that we have this core group of people and probably others that like this angle that you're discussing. But I don't think I would blanket statement that a younger set of designers are not upset with it. And I don't mean just upset with the way the internet is affecting the design world, but just because, I think it's more likely, A, your circle of people that you talk to, right? You're talking to people that you know. And B, I don't know that a younger designer would have the perspective to say, just like I started the show, everybody in the last year and a half is complaining about how the design industry is changing for the negative because of the internet. But so few people have offered, well, how about we do this to fix that? And so I could see more of the younger designers being frustrated, being upset at not having the business skills, but not necessarily knowing there is a movement or a place to make a change. Because I know personally from the emails that I get from designers that have just been coming out of colleges in the last couple of years, and they say, I love this field, but if it weren't for your podcast, I wouldn't have the slightest idea on where to start on running my firm. And so the younger set knows they need the business part taught to them, and they're coming to podcasts for it. And so I think we could get some youngers too. And then this way the movement will have legs. So when we're all tired and done, it'll carry on.
True.
You see, I'm just giving a little defense there because I know they're concerned too.
And you can't see me, but I'm shoveling those words back into my mouth. But I think you know where I'm coming from.
Yes, of course.
I'm not dissing the younger kids and saying they know nothing. I'm not saying that, but I think it becomes more frustrating the longer you're in the business. And the internet was not something that we had to worry about. Right. I'm the girl that did the POs on carbon paper.
Me too. Triplicate, pink, white, and yellow.
I know.
and when you got all the way to the bottom and you made a mistake, you had to start all over again and write a new one. What a pain in the neck that was.
That's right. I know. If people laugh, when you say that to them, I'm like, I'm so old that when I started, but yeah. So it is good to know that. They are coming out, and I'm not oblivious to podcasts and articles and how there are business coaches and workshops, etc., to add business.
Well, it's the only place that they can get it, though, is the point. I'm not saying that's the solution. Right. I'm saying that they are literally saying, if it weren't for this, I don't know where I would learn it. But that is not the solution. Yours is the solution. This is an adjunct thing for extra depth and extra insights to the experience of designers who have been running firms. I'm not teaching you business law here. I'm not teaching you accounting here. There are solid business things that need to be addressed. So let's talk about that a little bit, Victoria. So business law, accounting, marketing, are there other, have you dream boarded your curriculum yet? Like, do we have other things that you would put in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Okay. So, Yes, business law. And in that business law, we really go into contracts. And I think it would be great to have case studies. And I took business law, actually, and I thought it was fascinating. But, we need a couple of case studies of designers, actual design lawsuits, because they do happen. And I've had, my tangles with clients. And I'm ASID professional member, so I have their ASID contracts, which I have used for decades. And I'll give you a quick little story of how the contract is so critical, and this is how it should be taught. And we need to have case studies such as mine, where I was working for a billionaire, and he was not the nicest person on the block, but my billings were like 35,000 a month. I mean, it was a nice little cash flow. And so anyways, I worked on this project for over a year, and everything was moving forward. And we'd conference call constantly to make sure we were on the same page and have site visits. All of a sudden, I got fired. The day before I got fired, we'd had a conference call, and everything was fine. Terrific. We'll make those additions. The revisions will, be to you tomorrow, whatever. Meeting notes were submitted straight away. And the next morning I walk into my office and I've been terminated. And he owed me a lot of money. Whoa. And he didn't want to pay me. And so because he was so rich and I was not, he had his lawyers on retainer who were just stringing me along, hoping that I would cave, knowing I was a single mother, and just take whatever pittance they gave me. They owed me almost $80,000, and they were offering to settle for $20,000. And I was not going to go there. So I paid my staff, had to let them go, and went, I guess it was almost 3 months without getting this resolved. And in the meantime, I still had other clients, but it was hurting. Not having that money was really hurting me.
Right.
At the end of the day, we settled at like $65,000, I think it was. And I was told by the project manager that his lawyer could not weasel out of my contract. And that was like, I mean, you know how like you can sort of see those angel visions on a pedestal coming out of the clouds? That's kind of what I felt like. Like, look at me. I mean, I just battled with a billionaire, and I came out pretty damn good.
Yes.
And so that's what we need to teach them. These things are going to happen to you. Maybe not exactly that story, but you know what I mean.
Right.
So business law is so important. The contracts have to be taught so that it's really a key element of your business. How many times have we all heard stories of somebody that said, well, she was a friend of a friend, and I thought she was nice. I met her at this party, and so I did the work, but then like she bought it all herself, and I didn't make any money, and I didn't get paid. We hear that all the time.
Right.
So an accounting, how to manage your books, whether you use Studio Designer, Design Manager, any of the other programs out there, there's all those tabs and reports and complicated stuff. You need to understand that.
Right.
You need to understand what it means. The difference between a markup, just because you're adding 30% to 1,000, that's not your net profit. What is net and what is gross? They're pretty darn different.
Well, I mean, this is the truth. Simple things like that are not known. And there's no embarrassment in not knowing if you've never been taught. How that's like saying, whatever, you just don't. It's one thing if you sat through a class, you've been taught it, blah, blah, blah. You open up a business and you're just like 3 years later without a business checking account and not monitoring it. Well, that's on you. But because I know when I speak to designers on one-on-one coaching, I'll say, what was your net profit last year, or what were your gross revenues last year? And when I ask both questions, and the two numbers are not even possible to be in the same, you know what I mean? And then I go, oh, okay. So we're just going to take a minute here when we get on the call, and we're going to run through some of the basics, right?
Some of the basics.
Yes.
That's right.
Unless somebody teaches you. I wouldn't have known it if I didn't have the Vin Man all these years. There's not a chance I would have known it. I didn't go to business school. You know what I'm saying? Somebody has to teach you this stuff.
Somebody has to teach you.
Right. But how awesome would it be if the universities taught designers, is our point.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Marketing, I mean, that goes hand in hand with the internet. Mm-hmm. So, I had to have one of my employees who I absolutely adored. He was fresh out of Florida State, and he just looked at me and he goes, okay, give me your phone. We're setting up Instagram. Do you want it to be linked into Facebook? No problem. Here are your passwords. Here's what you do. And that's great. That's great that there's people that know stuff that we don't know,
right?
To help us along this path. But marketing is so key. You back in the day, since there wasn't any internet, everything was referrals. And you were known in your town and beyond in some cases. But now it's easy to be nationally recognized, even if you're working out of your kitchen. And it's how people market themselves and their brand, and how they want to expand that. And not everybody wants to be, a celebrity designer. Some people are very happy working part-time, taking care of their kids, volunteering, whatever it is that they do. But you have to understand how marketing works in this world today, and how these tools advance you professionally, how you can learn. I'm a big Pinterest person. And, that never existed. We all had to, when I was at Marymount, and I graduated in 1984. Right. We used to have this system, and it was part of our professional practices class. I just thought about this now. You would have to have a file box, and in that file box you had tabs. And then within, so you'd have like a living room or something, or window treatments, and you'd have this general tab, and then you'd subdivide it into specifics. So there'd be a tab that said valances, and you would rip out pictures, pages out of the magazines, and that was your resource file, your idea box, and now of course we have Pinterest. But I think that marketing is so important. And there are PR firms I work with, one in New York, and I'm very grateful for their skills. And I'm not saying that I could do it now on my own, because I'm running a different business. Mm-hmm. And marketing is not my niche. That's theirs. And so I'm glad to farm out the skill set that I don't have, marketing and accounting and, that type of thing. But I have to understand what it means to market myself. I have to understand what the options are, where these roads would take you. Is that where you want to end up? And, there's pros for that, but you got to understand it yourself to make sure that if you decide to hire someone, that you're understanding that package. That
it's the truth. It's so true, because you can't adequately vet anybody, whether it's a CPA, a PR agent, if you don't have some kind of, footing on what you need from that person, what your goal is in hiring that person, and therefore being able to analyze if they can deliver it or not.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think that marketing has to be a semester. But, the professional practice course, which every accredited program has, is a 3-credit, 1-semester course. In that course, they are trying to teach the contracts, and, job books are taught in this process. And I think that the professional practice course has to be divided up, and that equals those additional courses that I'm talking about. So
love it.
when your a whole semester just needs to be one job book, and you're not allowed to get on the internet and just find all your answers right there. Where possible, you need to have the class go to the design center, the old-fashioned way. At the Washington Design Center, Belinda at the front desk always called me. And Belinda always called me because she knew if she ever needed a tour guide in that design center, that I was the girl.
Right.
And I took all sorts, besides students, just in any kind of group. And during that, I would explain to them how you actually use a design center, that it's a true library for us. And if you don't understand what it is, and how many times have we heard of clients, or they go into a design center, it's overwhelming.
Yes.
I mean, the D&D, I always start on 18 and work my way down. It's a whole day. And so that needs to be part of the curriculum. It's not anymore. Anyways, I'm getting no, it's
interesting.
My heart's working.
I know, no. And that's interesting. I have my friend Shannon Letty is a professor at FIT and New York School of Interior Design, and she is one of the single most passionate professors for this industry you will ever come across. I promise you, Victoria. Follow her on Instagram. She's not this big Instagram account with a billion followers and posting all the time, but every post is almost to a one, something about her students. And it's interesting because I'm going to ask her if that's part of their curriculum, because the D&D is right there. And that just seems so basic to me that how could it not be included? I'll bet you $10 that she does it. It's just my thought, But.
And I used to do it for, I tell the kids that it was extra credit. If they got themselves down to the design center, and I'd say, I'm going to be there Wednesday from 10 to 1. Here's my cell phone number. And you can also ask the front desk to call me. But, I will be there. Anybody that shows up, you get extra credit. And they loved it.
Yeah.
They'd get dressed up. They'd meet me in the lobby,
right.
and it was exciting for them because that is the real world.
Right.
That is the real. So anyways, in professional practices, I think that we can really pull that apart and turn it into numerous courses, because that's the crux of what we do.
Yeah. I love it. Victoria, I'm with you, lady. Let's do this. Oh, my goodness. Could you imagine if in a year or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, like it'll probably actually take, that the design schools literally could turn out business-minded interior designers? That would be the most amazing thing for our industry.
I just got goosebumps thinking about it. I know. I'm going to be at market in spring and fall. I'm a style spotter for 2020, and so I'm going to have I'll be the older woman in sneakers running through markets. You'll see me. But yeah, I mean, this is something that I think needs to happen in High Point. I think that's a great place for us to start. And I have no idea. You and I are going to have to canoodle this after, in the months
I'm on
to come.
it. This is happening. The game on.
We need to call some peeps.
And, we're going to get our friend Gary and you, and we're going to get this done. So, oh my goodness. Well, I'm curious. Like you said, the first step is awareness. And so, of course, the High Point, having this on the agenda for High Point is without question. But the first step is putting it on this podcast. And we are going to have 8,000 or 10,000 designers that are going to listen to this over the next few months. And so I'll be very curious to hear the reaction. Like you said, it's gathering the reactions. And you said, expect it. There's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly about the reactions. And I'm very open-minded. If, you said, like, I listen to me. I've had other conversations on this podcast before that I just went all in. And then 3, 4, 6 months later, somebody said something to me. And I was like, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. So I don't know what I don't know right now, but what I do know at this moment is this seems like a great idea. Now, somebody who doesn't like the idea, they're going to come to me and explain to me the flaw in it. I'm going to listen to it all day long. We'll see if I agree or don't agree, but that's how something happens, right? So maybe there is a tiny flaw in it, and we take some advice or some suggestion from somebody who says, yes, and this, right? I like the yes, and instead of the no, but. It's like there's no way There's no way.
I agree.
Yeah, there's no way that this whole idea gets thrown out with the bathwater. But maybe there's some yes ands that we are not seeing right now, and I'm 100% open to that. So, Victoria, thank you so much for bringing this topic up. I, am fired up with it, just like you are. Really looking forward to the reaction, and I'm grateful to you for, going out on a limb and saying the things you said and sharing your expertise with us today. Thank you.
Well, you're so welcome. And the folks that want to support this, that's great. My name is Victoria Sanchez. If you don't, my name is Mary Smith.
And I'm Sally Smith.
Exactly, we're twins.
Oh my goodness!
All right,
have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks a million, LuAnn. See you soon.
All right. I said it. I'm the first to tell you. Maybe I don't know what I don't know sometimes, right? Meaning this idea sounds so logical to me. This sounds like a no-brainer. No one more than me wants our future interior design professionals to be equipped to run profitable businesses. So, in my mind, imagining a curriculum that includes 2 full years of real-life instruction on how to run a business, yes, ma'am, sign me up. But here's the thing. There's always another side, the I don't know what I don't know side, right? So as promised, we are going to talk about this in High Point. That's right, this spring 2020. Saturday, April 25th at 2 p.m., we are having this conversation. It will be myself, Victoria, Gary Inman, and I reached out to my friend and colleague, Dr. Ellen Fisher. And here's the crazy thing. She is flying in specifically for this conversation and to be on this panel. Yes, that's right. As the Dean of New York School of Interior Design, she has ideas, and I believe that this will make an outstanding opportunity for us to get to the heart of the matter. One thing I have to say that I absolutely know for sure, each one of us, Victoria, Gary, Ellen, and myself, have the same goal. This is the truth. We do. We all want the betterment of the industry. We want to help you, the interior designer, and we want to help create opportunities that benefit all of us involved, from designer to vendor to university to client. All right? So please join us in High Point at the Summer Classics Showroom, 2:00 p.m. on Saturday, April 25th. All right? Specific details. Either go to Summer Classics Gabby website or go to my website, LuAnnNigara.com. On the events page for me. All right. So it might not be living and breathing right there that day that you're listening to this show, but it's coming, and we will definitely have all the information up for you. Okay. All right. So I'm chomping at the bit for this conversation. And I just think that this is the way to make things better. All of you are always emailing me, talking to me, telling me how you didn't learn this part. You didn't learn the business side. So there has to be a new way to do it. But I'm not sure what the way is, all right? But I know that between Victoria, Gary Inman, and Ellen Fisher, we are going to get to the heart of it. We're going to talk it through. So please join us, all right? All right. As far as today, thank you so much for showing up. I really, really, really do appreciate it. And as far as High Point, I'm going to be doing a gabillion things at High Point. So please come and see us. We're going to have all the stuff on my website. I will be doing several events at Jaipur. I'll be doing some events with my Doma Studio, of course. And always, please stop by at the Kravitz Showroom on 4:00 on Sunday for their annual, I should say biannual, High Point party. All right? Looking forward to seeing all of you in real life. I hope you can make it. That's it for today. Thanks ton for showing up. I always appreciate it. I want to know, what are you doing? What are you doing today to make your business better? Are you doing something? Are you taking an action? I hope you are. I hope you're deciding to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.